I would say the number one financial mistake that people make who have money, so they're not trying to accumulate yet, but they've started accumulating wealth already, is buying whole life insurance policies and annuities.
Yeah.
I have never seen an annuity that made sense. Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. Are you curious about the top financial mistakes people make and how to avoid them? I'm Casey Smith. Today, I'm joined with Grace Kennedy, a financial planning associate with us. Each week, we bring you practical advice on retirement, investing, and planning for your financial future. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Hi, Grace.
Hi.
All right. So this is your first podcast. So welcome
is.
to A Wiser Retirement.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know Grace has been with us for how many months now?
I think 6.
6 months. It feels like you've been here forever.
I know it's weird saying only 6 months.
I know.
You know?
So Grace's role is partially keeping me in line. So if you're a client and you come and do review meetings with me, most likely in the last 6 months, Grace has been in the room with me. And I tell you what, our firm is 87, maybe a little higher than that now, % women.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of women that work here, and I'd say as a whole, we're a pretty happy bunch, but occasionally somebody walks in my room and goes, so-and-so's driving me crazy today.
It's inevitable.
And you know what? I never hear your name. Your name never pops up.
you.
No one ever
I
says,
appreciate
Grace is
that.
driving me crazy today.
Oh, good.
No one's ever said that.
That's good to hear.
She's also came in like the boss. So she has no problems walking in my room and going, you're going to be late. We have to get going. So I appreciate you keeping me on schedule, Grace. So, we when Hadley put together the podcast topics for this quarter, I asked her, I said, hey, let's start working in different people so we can profile people. Cause typically what do I tell prospects? Senior advisors do all the talking and planning associates do all the work.
Yeah.
So you've been doing all the work for me. And so now it's time to give you some of the spotlight here.
Yeah.
So you did some research for us.
I did.
And that research was some of the top financial mistakes people make and how we might be able to avoid them.
For sure. Yeah.
Some of these I think are probably good. You could pass this podcast to young people for them to be a little more educated on, hey, don't do this. You came up with your list. I added one thing to it, which we will hit off at the very beginning.
Okay.
I think I would say the number one financial mistake that people make who have money, so they're not trying to accumulate yet, but they've started accumulating wealth already, is buying whole life insurance policies and annuities.
Yeah.
I have never seen an annuity that made sense long term. Yes, it protects you from the downside, but it also eliminates the upside. So you're just kind of go nowhere.
Yeah.
Typically they get sold to old widows.
Yeah.
Because the person selling them has every incentive to sell them, and they're pretty good salespeople. Normally they have the ability to win people's trust. And then occasionally we see young people with annuities, and it's funny, they come in and they're really embarrassed. They're like, well, I have these 2 annuities.
They're scared to tell us.
I know I shouldn't have done that. Or sometimes it doesn't pop out till the second or third meeting.
You're like, let's add that in there.
Right? I've got this annuity.
Yeah.
Of course, immediately we think, they must have just inherited it or something. And that's not the case. They got sold a product. A lot of times they will play the salespeople will play the people's fears, but you're not going to make any money in a product that caps your upside. So you get capped to the upside. We've had 2 20+ rate of return years in the S&P 500, and these products typically cap out around 6%.
Yeah, you're not seeing that exactly. Yeah.
And of course you may have downside protection, but 7 out of 10 years are positive years in the market. So you just have to weather through those 3.
Definitely. Yeah.
And we're looking at no way you're ever going to keep up with the average of the market. And in fact, honestly, you can create your own annuity.
Yes.
Which
we talk about a lot. Yeah.
You need to talk to people who are smart about this kind of stuff and say, look, if you are really concerned about the market falling apart and you have all these fears, you really just need 3 buckets. You need a cash bucket that could be 5 years worth of cash. You might put 10 years worth of expenses inside short-term U.S. Treasury bonds. Those are really secure. And then the rest you can put in to like something like the S&P 500, and basically you just built your own annuity product.
Annuity, yeah, exactly.
You have the dividends from the stock, you have the growth to keep up with inflation, you have income from the bonds, and then your cash now you should be getting around 4.25 for now. That'll go away, and that'll be more of a challenge in the future. But yeah, I for the advisors that are collecting 10% commission on these things, you lock up your money for 14 years. Just doesn't.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. And then the whole life side, it's very expensive. When I see young people have whole life policies, doctors are really preyed upon, young doctors for whole life policies. And let's see, we've had a couple of cases where young people are putting $3,500 a month into a whole life policy. We had a pilot that was told not to contribute anything to his 401k plan, that he should put in $6,500 a month into a whole life policy, because you could be your own bank and borrow from yourself tax free. And I'm like, well, yeah, but they actually still charge you interest.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And is it really tax free when you're just moving money? You don't have to pay you don't have to pay taxes if you borrow from your checking account, right? Your savings account.
Yeah.
And then as you age, obviously the death benefit can get more expensive depending on what kind of policy you have. But the whole life side has never made sense to me unless you have estate planning issues. Net worth as a family's over $28 million, then you might purchase a really large whole life policy to help cover some of the death tax.
Yeah.
But outside of that, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like I said, there are underlying cases, and we're talking to thousands of people who download this podcast every week, right? Yeah. So I don't know
specific cases,
your specific case, but those are two things that I would say you need to avoid. I've never met anybody that was proud that they made those purchases.
Yeah, it's a mistake, and you can avoid them by just not purchasing them.
So now I've just hijacked your whole list, but
no, not at all.
Let's start with what you came up with.
Yeah, my number one, which is really number two.
Right.
But yeah, we have top 10, which will be top 11 now, but top 1 will be unnecessary spending. And I feel like this can fall into a lot of different categories because we all kind of unnecessarily spend on things. It's inevitable. But spending too much on things that aren't essential can drain your finances over time. Okay. And this can be like a simple example that I have, unnecessary for me is buying a Starbucks coffee, every morning. You don't need to do that.
Right.
I don't, because I've seen the impact on it. Starbucks isn't cheap. Let's say I want to go get my brown sugar oat milkshake and espresso, which is my favorite drink. Okay. It's a mouthful.
How do they fit that on a menu?
I don't know. I get, tongue tied trying to say it to them. They're like, we know what you mean. I'm like, okay, thank you. It's a $6 drink.
Wow.
It's $6. That's the grande. It's not even the big one.
Oh, wow.
$6.
Yeah.
Okay. Say I wanted to do that every day of the work week. I just wanted to get up before I come into work, which is, I'm sure a lot of people do that. Okay. So five times 6, you're spending $30 a week. It's like around $120 a month just on coffee. And then if you're going on a monthly basis, that's $1,500 a year or on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's over $1,000. It's $1,500 a year that you're just spending on coffee,
Right.
And I think that's like an easy mistake that people make. That can also be with like shopping, buying something that you don't really need, or also eating out more than you should. It's just like these little things add up. And the key word here is unnecessary, and that's subjective. Maybe that coffee is very necessary for some people. Like, I get it. I need coffee every day too. And so we're not saying that like you can't just like go and buy your favorite Starbucks drink.
That reminds me, Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
He always makes fun of people who buy Starbucks coffee. He's just like, I can get the same coffee for 50 cents. And everyone else is like, no, it's not really. Yeah. It's not the same. He's like, it's the same. It's just coffee.
Maybe black coffee.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, some people may need that drink. I completely understand. But if we could like put that more in a budget maybe and budget for it at least, maybe you don't need it 5 times a week, spending $120 a month, maybe we can back it down.
You can preload a Starbucks app, right? So you can put your budget for Starbucks
and only have that
and
for the
only
month.
Have that for
exactly.
The month. Yeah.
That's smart. You can do that, especially if you want to do Starbucks. But say you have like your favorite local coffee shop. You're like, I can't stop going there. Right. Okay, well, let's budget for it. And then you can afford that, you know, and then you can enjoy it more. You're not like overspending on your coffee budget, you know?
Right.
Or, you know, something else you can do is let's invest in a coffee machine, you know, or whether you want an espresso machine, those $1,000, that $1,500 per year can go into an espresso machine.
Yeah.
They're expensive. And then you can break even, you know, in a year where if you're actually repetitively using that, you know. So that's just like a small mistake I think people make. And they don't realize how much coffee is. I swear, whenever you start putting that on your budget, I've done it. Yeah, because I was in college. I wanted to go to the coffee shop and study and have my coffee, you know, like have the whole atmosphere. And as soon as I started budgeting and I put it on my budget, $100 a month, I was like, I don't even have that much money. Like, that's crazy.
Right.
So I think having it written out is definitely a help to avoid that and budgeting out.
It's all about choices, right? In the end, you might not spend it on coffee, but you might spend it somewhere else. Or if you're really trying to achieve a goal of some sort.
Exactly. Yeah.
Delayed gratification is really hard, especially for Americans.
Yes. Yes. And we'll probably even get into that a little later. Okay. Next, number 2 is going to be never ending payments. This is seen a lot whenever you have like subscriptions to streaming services. You know, there's absolutely every streaming service you can think of these days, and some people want it all. You know what I mean? Have you ever been to someone's house and they're like, you want to watch a movie? You're like, yeah, what do you have? You're like, all of it. I have it all. Like, you just tell me what you want. I'm like, what? Right. You got it all? And so I've put together, if you had all of them, what that would be on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So let's talk about YouTube TV. That's $83. I think it just went up.
Right.
Because I don't remember it being $83. Netflix, $18. Disney Plus, $16 per month. Paramount Plus, $12 a month. Hulu is $19. Prime Video is $9. Max is $17. And that's $174 per month that you're spending on streaming services. And that equals out to over $2,000 per year just on streaming services. And unless you're just like an avid TV watcher, I feel like you're not actually getting the benefit of all of those.
Yeah.
So a way to avoid that is there are bundles for your subscriptions so that you can consolidate your subscriptions. Let's cancel some of them that you haven't touched in months. And then you can pay way less for your little bundle of subscriptions. I think that there's something out there for like Hulu, Disney Plus, and Max maybe. And it's like $30, $35 a month. You just got 3 for 1. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm going to sound old and maybe a little more entrepreneurish, ship-ish, if that's a word, than maybe what our listeners would be. But I would say that you should pick one, maybe.
Yeah.
And then you should read. You should find books.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And maybe you're reading for pleasure, but I'm a business book reader for obvious reasons. But yeah, I can't. Of course, time for me is very precious.
Yes.
I don't have a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I'm trekking across the country, going to a conference, let's say in California, I feel guilty if I watch a movie on the airplane. Because I'm like, this is great quiet time. It's not as quiet as it used to be now that we get text in the airplane.
On the airplane, yeah.
But yeah, I feel very guilty if I'm not reading something, trying to improve a process here or hire better or, you know, all those things, right?
Yes.
As a CEO of a company, my job is to be a leader, and therefore I feel like I should always be reading something to make sure I'm a better reader.
Agreed.
Now,
yeah.
Either that or I'm reading aviation magazines because something related to safety because I want to make sure I don't die when I'm flying. Right. Yes. So it's I would encourage people to be learners. And you can do that through documentaries and things like that, course, obviously. But man, you know, when we have this funny saying that's crept up between me and Alexa here, and she'll say things like, if you're 80 years old and you're looking back, right? What do you wish you had done? Most times I'm not going to say I wish I'd watched more movies.
Yeah.
Especially now, the movies suck.
More, yeah. You know what I mean? Exactly. I've never heard anyone say that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, some guys are all in on the whole.
Oh, I know.
The whole football thing. I think that goes back to quality time. If you're watching it with friends or family members or eventually your children or something like that, then that falls into the quality time.
Definitely. Yes.
But yeah, so don't lose money and come out dumber in the process. Right.
Just like in taking all of this. Yeah, I know. I saw that too. And I was like, wow, we should really go on a walk, you know, like let's get some vitamin D. Like, let's stop. Exactly. We look at screens all the time. We really want to look at a screen all day at work, look at our phone, and then reward ourselves at home by looking at another screen. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Let's be active, go to the gym, do something, you know? But at the least, you know, if you want to have the subscriptions, let's consolidate.
Especially for young people. I mean, what are you doing right now in your spare time?
Studying.
Yes, you're studying for the CFP exam.
Yes, there's no TV watching at my house.
So the rate of return on yours passing the CFP exam is very high for you. Mm-hmm. So that's what I tell all young people is if you're under the age of 30, you should be absolutely working your butt off.
Yeah.
Because now you have the time, the energy.
Yes.
To go do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then down the road in your 30s, you have a family, maybe you have children, then you can kind of coast a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
And because you put all the work in for the first decade of your career.
Exactly. Yeah.
Most people don't understand that. So that goes back to why are we sitting here watching movies and you know. So anyway, for me, movies are when I'm sick, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Then maybe I'll catch up on some movies.
Exactly. But this is number 2 on the list. So
it is.
Apparently
Absolutely.
it's an issue.
Right. Exactly.
Number 3, moving on to number 3 is living large on credit cards. That actually kind of rhymes. That's funny. Living large on credit cards. Overusing credit cards for lifestyle expenses leads to mounting debt and high interest payments. Amen. I mean, that is so many people do this. Right. I feel like. I did some research, and in 2024, the average interest rate on a credit card was 24.62%. It's 25%. Okay.
Yeah.
On a credit card.
Right.
That's crazy.
Interest. Yeah.
Yes.
What I think is funny is people, well, yeah, but I get Sky Miles. I'm like, at 25% interest, and you're holding a balance, and the average is around 8,000.
Yeah.
I said, you probably just buy the airplane ticket.
Exactly. Just buy the ticket.
Right.
That's not benefiting you at all.
You're better off in a lower interest credit card if you have to carry the debt.
Exactly.
And being a wealth management firm, I'd say we don't see a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
But occasionally young people
will
come to the
in
door
with credit card debt. Yeah.
I think the most I've ever seen was $250,000.
That's a ton.
In credit card debt. Isn't that crazy?
That's scary. Yeah.
That was just before the big financial crisis in 08, like
really?
06, 05, 06. I feel like everyone had $30,000 credit card limits, even like at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And
or multiple cards.
In their case, a lot of things they had bought, they could sell. Mm-hmm. So they were able to reduce it pretty quickly. In fact, Dave Ramsey has a whole book, The Total Money Makeover. And all it is a radio show of people calling in, talking about how much money they lost. And the people who lost the most money got invited to go on a cruise ship with Dave.
My gosh.
So it was like a whole cruise ship of people who become debt free, I guess. One of the promotions they did.
Yeah.
But The Total Money Makeover is a great book by Dave Ramsey if you feel like you need to be motivated to get rid of debt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a leading issue, I feel like. And I think it's something you can also hide. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people that may have like giant credit card debt may not want to come into a financial planner because we're going to make them, let's pay off the debt. And that it's hard, especially on a credit card with that kind of interest rate.
It's hard work.
Yes. Like it's hard to catch up and get ahead of that. But, you know, like we were saying, whenever you do make a purchase on a credit card and you can't pay it off at the end of the month or you don't pay it off at the end of the month, that is detrimental because it's just going to keep on going and going. And it's like, how do you catch up if you didn't have the money in the first place to pay it off or pay for it?
Right.
You put it on the credit card. How do you eventually, catch up and make those payments? Like you have to work really, really hard. So it's better just not to get in that situation.
Yeah.
It's easy. Like I remember the first month I had a credit card. I was in college. I was trying to be responsible actually and like start getting a credit score. Mm-hmm. And, I remember I like looked at my credit card balance and I was like, okay, my limit was like $1,000. It's not like I put a lot on there, but I also was in college with no income.
Right.
I look at my bank account and I was like, something's not adding up. Like, you know, like rent was due coming up. I mean, it was not a good situation. Thankfully, I had like the Discover card that has like the 18 months where it like doesn't.
Oh, right.
So that saved me. But I'm like, think of not having that. And so many people will just spend on the credit card, not even realize it. But ways to avoid that, because that's what we're trying to avoid. Number one is creating a detailed budget. Just knowing where your money's going and knowing how much money you actually do have to spend in a month is very important. Monitoring your credit card transactions. And when I say that, I mean like open up the credit card app and look at your balance. So many people I think are scared to look at it. They're like, oh, I've been swiping all month. Like, I don't want to look at it. Like, open it up. Let's look at it. Look at your expenses. Look at the transactions. Let's put it down on your budget to see like, oh, I kind of overspent there. We need to stop. Let's slow down. I can't spend any more this month. Lower your credit limit.
Sometimes if you struggle with this, you might even look at logging in on a weekly basis and just paying the balance owed.
Yeah. Paying it more frequently. Like, don't wait till the end of the month. That is true. Correct. So you can stay on top of it. That's a good idea. Lower your credit limit and then the amount of cards that you have. If you have an issue with like carrying a huge balance, lower the credit limit or just cut up some cards, you know, like if you have multiple that have like tiny little, you know, limits on it, just cut up some so that you don't even have the desire to want to go and spend it. It's going to take a lot of discipline to get rid of credit card debt.
I mean, you typically don't want to be, you don't want to carry a balance greater than 30% of your credit limit. Mm-hmm. So lowering your balance is good in practice, but you also want to protect your credit.
Yes.
But I would say it's better to hurt your credit a little bit by cutting the balance down, even if you're right at the max, and be eliminating debt or put safeguards for yourself than it is to be focused on the credit score number.
Exactly. Yeah. But a lot of people don't even know that rule either, the 30% rule.
Right.
You know, they're building it all the way up to their credit limit, and that's still hurting their credit. You know what I mean? Like if you use more than that 30%, that's still hurting you.
That's right.
And people don't even realize that.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
The next one's fun. Buying a new car.
Right. We both had to do that, didn't we?
I know. We're very familiar with this process, except I have a used vehicle. I think we both have used vehicles.
Yeah, I bought a used one.
So they're not brand new. So a little bit different than what we're going to be talking about. But new cars lose value very quickly. I looked it up to see like what the average, you know, how everyone's always like the second you roll off the lot with your new car, it depreciates, and it's 10%. That's like conservative.
Yeah.
I also saw that in the first year of having a new car, it can depreciate 20 to 45% in the first year.
A good example of that would be like the Maseratis.
Yeah.
So you have like a 4-door Maserati. I don't know what their base model is, but their mid model be close to 200,000.
Yeah.
And then 3 years later, you can buy that car for $50,000 to $60,000.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it's crazy.
It's insane. Yeah.
And it gets worse. You know, the car market's kind of weird, but other cars. There are other cars more everyday cars that hold your value. Like you got a Honda.
Yeah, a Honda. And it actually, Toyotas also really hold their value too.
It held 3 years. Sometimes you're better off maybe looking at a new one because a mint used one is pretty close in value.
Exactly. Yeah, they are.
Maybe there's a few exceptions, but I would say as a general rule, you want, my car was 1 year old with 16,000 miles on it. And because I bought it the way I did, I got a much better warranty. I have a 5-year unlimited mile warranty.
Yeah.
Where if I bought the brand new one, yes, I would have the new car smell, but 50,000 miles would have been my limit.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of miles on my cars, right?
Yeah, so exactly.
You have to be smart about it. It's hard.
It is hard,
especially where I am in my stage of my career.
Yeah,
I could almost buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like, let me be disciplined.
What happened to me was I picked out a car. I got there and they sold it out from under me.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at this one that was, it was a nice one. It was the one in the showroom. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh man, that's an awesome car. I'd love to have that car.
Yes, it's hard.
And then finally I was like, this is not responsible. Like, in 2 years, this is going to be just as used as any other car.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
just go ahead and get the.
Just got to make smart decisions. Now some people though, their cars are their hobby, mm-hmm. and there could be some exceptions. There. I mean,
we're not saying never buy a new car.
We've had clients that buy very nice brand new cars, but they don't have country club memberships. They don't have second homes. They don't have.
They can afford it. Paid in cash.
They go to the car meets, right? I mean, this is a big deal for them.
Yes.
But I would say, as a general rule, if you're a young person, mm-hmm. You want to be driving something that ideally is paid for.
Yes.
And you want to find something that's reliable transportation.
Yes, exactly.
That's how you need to think about it.
Yeah. And I think this is where it kind of falls, is a lot of young people, and I can say this because I'm in this stage of life, you get an income for the first time, like a steady salary, and you're like, oh, what is the max I can spend a month on a new car? I've had a crap car for the past 4 years, and it's hard. Like, I bought a 2019 Honda CR-V. Is that a dream car? I would say no. Like, if I wanted it, if that was not my handpicked, yes, that's her, no, that's not what I did. Like, but of course I was trying to be smart about it. Like, what can I afford? I probably could have spent a lot more and been crying every month paying the bill on it. But an example of like how much a car really depreciates and kind of like where the values lie is, let's say, a brand new Honda CR-V, okay, mm-hmm. which those look good. I actually wanted one of those. Right. They just created the new body of it. Looks so good. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, let me look at it. Let me just, why not? You're just car shopping. $35,000 for a mid-size SUV. Right. And I was like, that's out of my price range. That's crazy. It's like, can't afford that. Okay, so let's use $35,000 car, Honda CR-V. After you've sat at the dealership for 5 hours, you get your bill of sale, tax tag, title, mm-hmm. dealership fees, all the things that add up to a very sad number at the bottom of that piece of paper. Right. Let's say it's $40,000. Okay. We're going to add on $5,000. I feel like really it'd be like 38, 39, but for math, let's do 40. Okay. We're going to put down 20%, which is just a standard rule of thumb. Mm-hmm. That's $8,000. Okay. You go and get a loan for $32,000. Then you're like, yay, I have a loan. Here's the check, dealership. Let me take my car. You are leaving the dealership with your $35,000 car. Statistically, like I said, it's 10%, loses its value the instant it goes off the lot. Okay, now your $35,000 car is worth $31,500, and you just got a loan for $32,000. So you have a loan that is worth more value than your car is at this point. Right. And it's brand new.
It's brand new. Yeah.
No miles on the thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
It'll continue to depreciate.
Exactly. First year, 20 to 45%. Like, and you're not paying that much down on it, on the car. Correct. So, yeah, we're not saying don't buy new cars. I mean, if it's in your budget, of course, go for it. But a lot of used cars have already taken that, like, first hit. Your car's still going to depreciate, Cars depreciate. It's a depreciating asset, but at least it doesn't take that initial
certified pre-owned. If the manufacturer has a program, certified pre-owned is
the way to go.
Is probably the closest thing to new. I will say that SUVs and minivans are hard to buy used because if there's kids involved, they've been beaten to death.
Crown marks on it, food. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's all relative. It depends. Okay, moving on from cars, let's go into homes. Yeah. Okay, we go from spending too much on a car to spending too much on a home. That's hard.
You spot these people. They have really nice cars, really big houses, and no furniture.
Exactly. They can't furnish the home. And that's where I'm getting at. Like a lot of people go house hunting and they're like, okay, what mortgage can I get? What payment can I afford on a monthly? It's like, okay, let's think about all the other stuff that comes with buying a home. Mm-hmm. The taxes, the maintenance of just having to have, let's mow the lawn. We would like a mower, to be able to mow the lawn. You get in your new house. Let's say you can furnish it, but then all of a sudden the back porch is falling apart on, you know?
Right.
And it's like all these little things, unexpected, expensive of owning a home that people don't think about. And that can really hurt you financially, just overextending that budget, because that's something that you have to pay every month. It's not like you can just stop paying your mortgage.
Right.
And so.
Or a mortgage so big that you don't have enough in emergency reserves.
Exactly.
If you lost your job for 6 months.
Yeah.
To be able
can you pay for the home?
Keep paying the mortgage.
Exactly. So 22% of Americans identify as house poor, which is basically meaning that they are spending more than 30% of their monthly income on housing, which is, I mean, like, I get it. It's hard. I'm young 20s right now. I would love to own a home one day, but like, you know, they're expensive, especially like in the city where we're at. Like, they do get very expensive. Like we were talking, you can buy $500,000 home and then need to tear it down. You know, like it's hard. I get it.
A bit crazy. Yeah,
it is. But you can't let go of your budget whenever you're looking. You know, I'm sure no one's going to sit there and say like, I love my home, but like I'm so house poor. You know what I mean? Like that weighs on you. It almost takes away from the niceness of your home because you can't even afford it and you can't enjoy it.
Kind of goes back to, in our planning process, we always want to create like a family mission statement.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the mission statement. Is your mission statement to own really nice cars and have a big home? No one says that.
Yeah.
Most people say, I want to build wealth. I want to create a legacy for my family.
Exactly.
Or I want to create a legacy through assets, or a legacy. No one says that. Legacy through travel is pretty popular. But no one ever experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we all want to have nice homes.
Of course.
There's a lot of remodeling that happens, but overextending on a home. The 28-36 rule, which is don't spend more than 28%.
Yeah, on your housing expenses, and then the 36%.
That's your gross monthly income.
Yes, of your gross monthly income. And then the 36% is do not spend, like in your overall debt.
Oh,
don't have that more.
No more than 36%.
Exactly, which is funny. I just learned that in my CFP course.
I think the average car payment's around $800 now, if I remember correctly.
It was pretty high. It could have even been like 1,000 or something. It
could have crept up. That's been a few years since I looked at it. But that alone can also hurt you buying a home if your income is not quite right.
Yeah, like you're taking away from that monthly income that you have to officially afford a home.
Yeah.
So the 28-36 rule is important. It's just like a standard rule of thumb. Like, okay, whenever you're looking at your monthly housing expenses, don't let it be 28 more than your gross income. Right. And then looking at all of your debt, if you do have a car payment plus your monthly housing expenses, don't let that be more than 36%.
Yeah.
It's a good rule of thumb to live by, and just have that in the back of your head when you are home shopping.
Correct.
You know, I get it. It can be exciting.
Yeah.
You know, whenever me and my mom were moving years ago, I knew, she was like, oh my gosh, but you can get this, you can get that. Like, it's fun. I get it. But like, you got to think about the monthly expenses.
Sure.
Okay. So let's say that you do have a home and you're misusing home equity. That is another big mistake. Using home equity for unnecessary purchases rather than investments can hurt your financial stability. So I, of course, have never fallen into this. I don't own a home, so I'm not over here misusing equity. But I feel like this is more common. Like, I feel like we see this sometimes coming in.
Yeah, when interest rates were really, really low, people would overspend, and then they would use the home equity line of credit on their home, or refinance their home, take cash out to pay off debts, only to get into debt again.
Yeah. It
kind of became a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Helped kind of trigger the financial crisis with the housing crisis back in 07, 08. There's less of that now, I feel like, just because it's harder, and your interest rate's like 6.25%.
Yeah, it's not any
so
better.
It's not really an incentive to do that unless you just have to have a large home redo.
Exactly.
But yeah, home equity. Ideally, you want to get your home paid off by 65.
Yeah, when you retire. Yeah.
When you retire, so home equity line of credit, if you use it, ought to be temporary, with a easy way.
Definitely be able to like pay it off quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's equity in your home. Like, that is what you own. You don't want to give up that ownership to someone else.
Correct.
Like the bank. You know, like, you just worked all that time to sit there and do that. Like, you don't want to reverse that and take that back. It's only going to hurt you in the long run. So that's very important. Okay, so next on the list is not saving enough. And I think this is just like a general, this doesn't even have to do with retirement, but just like not saving enough. Like everybody's like, oh, retirement savings. But like, no, you actually just need savings.
Yes.
Emergency savings.
Right.
Emergencies happen.
Before you have retirement savings, you should have emergencies.
Yeah. Let's get that built up because something is going to happen. So a lack of saving leaves you vulnerable to emergencies and unplanned expenses, which are going to happen. It's not even just like an if. It's going to happen. You want to have that reserve. So I researched that the average saving rate for U.S. household in 2024 was 3.6%.
So
that's all they're saving
of their income.
Yep.
About 3%. So I think the average person is making, educated person is probably around 45,000, which is crazy. So that would be $1,300 a year. That's
your coffee's more than that.
$112 a month. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think.
And it's probably because they're spending it on their coffee.
Right, they're spending it on their coffee and their subscriptions, right?
Exactly. And they don't have room to save because that is a big...
It's very cliche, but it's very accurate. 3 to 6 months of your expenses need to be put in. Not your income, but your expenses. Whatever it's costing every month to live, 3 to 6 should be in. Do
you have enough savings that if something crazy were to happen, which happens, can you live off of your savings? I think that's very important. I'm working on mine right now, so I understand it takes discipline to do it, but that's a very important rule. Okay, so not just saving, but not investing in retirement is another mistake that people are making.
Yep.
This is a big one because I think a lot of people are so used to living in the here and now. They're like, I'm just going to spend the money. Social Security will take care of me later. Something will come and or I'll save later. I'm young. I'm in my 20s. But it is so important, especially when it comes to retirement. The power of compound interesting, you need to start now. Right now.
Well, being that we work at a wealth management firm, most people that meet with us are probably maxing out their 401k plans. However, if you're listening, for the next generation, you need to hound this home, eliminate debt, don't stay out of debt, especially student loans. Make sure that they have enough in savings, but then tell your kids they need to be. It's hard to max out a 401k plan initially, but if they just put 10%, if you're in your early 20s, if you can just throw in 10%, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Just start.
Stay out of debt.
Exactly.
Put in 10%, you'll be fine. And eventually, as your career progresses, you can start maxing out.
Exactly. I was interested to know like a statistic on this, and I looked it up, and it was like 16% of Americans don't have retirement savings at all.
Yeah.
And then 39% don't have like the accounts. They don't have a 401k. They don't have an IRA.
Yeah.
And
even the average baby boomer has like $200,000 in total net worth. There's a lot of people out there that are living only on Social Security eventually, which is crazy to think about.
It is, yeah. And it's just go ahead and start now. Put in the employer match, like do something. Just start putting in the 10%, like you said. It's never too late. Just go ahead and start.
Yep.
Okay, paying off debt with the retirement savings that you do have.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Using retirement funds to pay debts can jeopardize your future financial security. That is so true.
So how you would do this normally is you do a 401k loan. You're paying interest to yourself. So it's kind of like an interest-free loan somewhat.
Yeah.
To pay off the debt. The problem I have with that is typically how you got into debt is because you didn't have good spending habits.
Yeah.
And therefore you realize that you do this to mask the problem.
Yeah.
You look down, it's a false sense of security. You have a loan, now it's just a loan over here. And the 401k loan for people that are maybe use that to buy a property or something like that, I can kind of justify it because it's invested in real estate.
It's growing, yeah.
And it can still grow. You can sell the real estate, you can pay off the loan. But to use it to eliminate debt can be you do it one time.
Yeah.
And if you get into debt again, then you're just double
just
stuck.
Double where you were. Exactly.
So it's the same with the home equity line. You can only do that so often, right?
Yeah.
So typically we don't want to disrupt the retirement, but if we need a complete reset, I'll do it. I'll tell a client, okay, we're going to do a hard reset. It's going to cost you a fortune in taxes, but we have to reset everything.
Yeah.
And then we're going to build from
and sometimes that is what you have to do. It just depends on each scenario.
I mean, if you're under the age of 59 and a half, which in our podcast is more for younger people. So that would be the case. You're going to lose your income tax rate. So if you're in a 24% tax bracket, you're going to get taxed at 24%. State gets taxed at 5% for pulling out money of a retirement account. Plus, if you're under 59.5, you pay an additional 10% penalty.
Yeah, it's a penalty.
So you're looking at a very high percentage of that money that you won't be able to actually touch.
And it's not working for you anymore. It's actually working against you now.
Right.
Exactly. People are like, oh, I'm just paying myself back. But like whenever you're like contributing to the 401k now, it's like not going into the market. It's actually just going towards paying off that loan.
Correct.
So it's just all about your mindset and realizing the reality of actually doing that. Okay, finally. This is the most important one.
Drum roll,
literally. Not having a financial plan.
Yeah. So most Americans don't have financial plans.
Yeah.
And I'd say most of the people who have financial plans don't actually have financial plans.
Yeah.
Because they're not comprehensive plans. They might be focused on one or two segments. Whatever that advisor's selling is probably what they focused on. But having a financial plan that has a debt elimination plan, has a cash goal. That's always
goals.
in every plan, right?
Yes.
Has retirement planning, which I think is what most people who have plans have done. They just haven't done anything else around that.
Yeah.
But retirement planning will tell you, hey, based on what I'm saving today, this is what my future looks like at retirement. It sets the expectations on, am I working till 60, 65, or 70, right?
And what you need to do to get there.
Exactly. And then how you need to allocate your money amongst that. And then there's also other ways. A joke is there's more than one way to lose money. It's not just a stock market. So that comes with insurance and estate planning, making sure that we have all our safeguards in place to protect our assets. And then how we pass those assets to the next generation if something were to happen to us prematurely.
Yeah.
That's all part of the planning process. Obviously, we do all that here at Wiser, but for our clients who have gone through this, they have the confidence that they know they're doing what they're supposed to with every dollar that they get.
Exactly. Like money is purposeful. Therefore, you need to make it have a purpose in your life. You know, like you need to put it to work. You don't just need to like sit there and spend on the subscription, spend on the coffee. Like you need to put it to work so that it benefits you later. Yep. And having a clear plan is super important.
It is. I tell people all the time, it's some people think the word budget and they think, oh, I can't do these things.
Yes.
But actually just budget should mean the description should be every dollar has a purpose.
Exactly.
So it could be that you have purposed Starbucks every morning. You have purposed every subscription possible. Yeah. But before you got to that line item, you are maxing out your 401k.
Yeah, you're doing the necessary steps.
You've done all the other things, right? It's okay.
And then with the leftover money after you've saved and paid all your expenses. Absolutely. Okay, let's have fun with the money, you know, like at least it's...
Dave Ramsey has the whole cash bucket thing and you walk around with paid cash for everything. That's great for people who are like on financial triage where they're about to die.
Yeah.
And they
have to do that.
They need to do that to get disciplined. But I think for most people, at least people listening to this podcast, I think the best budget is always pay yourself first. What do you have to do now to protect yourself in the short term and long term? Meaning how much should you be putting away? After that, everything becomes what I call opportunity money.
Yeah.
So opportunity money is for the second home someday. It's for the big family vacation. It may just be for more tax efficiency, and retirement could be for many different things.
Yeah.
But the point is that opportunity money is not counted toward retirement.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we're really good at with our clients is helping them direct that opportunity money, the wealth that's been created outside of what they need. In retirement.
For sure.
That's the benefit of a plan. Thank you, Grace.
Yeah.
That was not bad first podcast.
Okay, we're good. I'm glad it wasn't bad.
That was a very good first podcast. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about Wiser Wealth Management or want to schedule a consultation to meet with one of our fiduciary financial advisors, you can do so by going to wiserinvestor.com. You can also click on the link in the episode notes. Don't forget, we have a YouTube channel as well. It's called A Wiser Retirement also. And you can watch this live and see Grace's beautiful smile and see how smart she looks today. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This episode was produced by Rachel Dotson. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and is not to be considered as investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or any other investment vehicles, or a basis to make any financial decisions. Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investor advisor with the SEC. The host and/or guests may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles mentioned on this podcast. Neither the host nor guests of the show are compensated for their participation, and no referral fees are paid to or received by any host or guest for clients, listeners, or similar interests. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.